Hi and welcome to this tutorial where we are going to show you the basics of how to collect the configuration data from your storage arrays and fabric. So the first thing you need is a copy of the data collection scripts and the documentation. There are two scripts, one for Windows and the other one for Unix. Both of them are in plain text, which means you can easily see what commands will be run against your storage environment. It's also worth noting that the scripts only collect configuration data, or what we term as metadata, about your storage devices and not any files from file systems. There are two guides, a quick start guide that provides an overview of the data collection process, supported devices, how the script collects the configuration data and the commands used when running the script. If you need more information, then take a look at the second guide, which is the data collection guide. This is far more detailed and it includes detailed information about the collection process for each device. Okay, so for today's example I'm going to take you through collecting configuration data from a Brocade fabric, which we also have an EMC Symmetrix array and a CLARiiON array to collect the configuration data from. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go into Windows Explorer, create a new directory called SAN data for today's example. And what we're going to do is, once that's created, we're just going to take a copy of the Windows collection script, just paste it in there. There we go, we've got our scripts in there ready to go. Because we're collecting from an IP device, in this case the Brocade fabric, I'm going to need to download a utility called P-Link, which is available on the internet. You just type it into Google, you'll soon come across it. In fact, here you can see it's the first on the list. If we just go to the download page for P-Link, you can see it's listed, plink.exe. Just download that to the machine where you're running the script from. And P-Link allows the script to run SSH commands remotely to the remote device we're collecting from. So once that's downloaded and ready to go, you can see we've got the collection script and P-Link ready to go now. So for the Brocade devices, we need to tell the collection script the IP addresses and the username passwords to log into. So if I just create a small text document in here called sra hosts. In fact, we'll put txt on here, won't it? So just a file called srahosts.txt. If I go into here, the first column is the IP address of the device we're connecting to. So our first one here is 100.168. The username, which is admin for our one, and a password is set to password. And we just tell the script that this is a Brocade device. If I take that and just copy that down to the next row, we have two fabrics here, so 168, 169. If I just save that file now, just come out, you can see we've got the three files there, and that's now all set up ready to collect from the Brocade fabric. Okay, so we've now got the configuration set up to collect from our Brocade fabric. If I just go out to a command prompt in Windows and just change into the SAN data directory, just do the dir command, you can see everything's ready to go. To run the script, just type in sra collect and Brocade in this particular case, and where we'd like to store the output. So in this particular machine, I'll store it in the SAN data directory as well. So hit return, will then ask me if I'd like to continue. Just enter yes. And then what will happen is the script will collect for the configuration data for the first device in the file, so in this particular case 100.168. What you'll also notice in the background there is in the SAN data directory it's created a directory where it's going to store the configuration data, and as you can see this file will now increase in size as it starts to list out the configuration for this first switch. If I go back into the SAN data directory, we'll also see a log file here. So if you think the collection isn't working, you can always come in here and check for any errors or warning messages that may have been reported. Okay, so if we now go back to the Windows command prompt, we can now see that the process is completed for both switches. Everything looks good there, no error or warnings reported to the screen. If I go back to the log file, what I can also do now is just have a good look through there, just check for any error messages or warnings, but everything looks good there. If I come out the log file, if I go into the directory itself, I can see I've got two files, one for each switch. I can see I've got quite a lot of data in there as well, so all looks good. If I now go back up to the SAN data directory, what I need to do now is just zip up this directory. I've got 7-zip on this machine, you may have something else, as long as it's a Windows zip file, then that will be fine. If we then just add that to a zip file, and what I'll do in this particular case, I'll just rename it to Brocade, just so I know that's the Brocade data. So that's all set to go now. So Brocade's complete. What we'll do now is move on to the Symmetrix array. So to collect the data from the Symmetrix storage arrays, we're just going to go back to the Windows command prompt where we were earlier. Now the script uses the Symmetrix SymCLI commands to collect data from Symmetrix and VMAX storage arrays. So what we're going to do before we start, we're just going to change the path on the Windows session here to include the directory where the SymCLI utilities are actually installed. So that command there will do it. If you wanted to set it as a permanent setting, obviously there's a setting in Windows that allow you to do that. But just hit return, so that sets the path environmental variable up. Now to run the script, it's very similar to what we ran before for the Brocade collection, SRA collect, but in this particular case it's Symmetrix, and again I'll put it in the SAN data directory. So if I just hit return there, again it will ask me just to confirm I want to run the script. Hit yes and it will start the collection. If I go back to the window over here, then I can now look in the directory, and as you can see it's collecting lots of configuration data from the storage arrays that this particular management station is managing, and you can see that it's completed, so the Symmetrix collection is now good to go. Again, if I go back to the window, I can look in the latest collection log file here, and again you can see here that it's run the Symmetrix collection. And these are all of the different commands that it's run. So again, you can have a look through here, make sure it's run correctly, look for any warning messages or errors that may have occurred during the collection. Once you're happy with that, just close off the file. And in this particular case, just 7-zip again, or Windows zip the file up into a zip file, and then if we just rename this one to Symmetrix. So the final device that we're going to collect from today is the CLARiiON array, and as you can see here I've loaded up the Navisphere interface that's allowed me to log on to our internal CLARiiON array. We don't use the data collection script to collect from CLARiiON systems. All we need is the output from an SP collect for both service processors. So as you can see here, I've got service processor A. All I literally do is right click on the service processor and click on the SP collect, just confirm that I'd like to run that. We have a success. Just repeat that for service processor B and click yes. Okay, so now the SP collects have run. If I go back to service processor A, just go into the file transfer manager, I just make the window a little bit larger and just sort by date. What we can see here is the SP collect that we created earlier. I just select the SAN data directory where our Brocade and Symmetrix data is, and just select transfer. Ask me to transfer it, so that's now transferring the file down. Just click OK on that. If I do repeat that same process for service processor B, just go to the file transfer manager. Again, just make the little window a little bit bigger and sort by the date window, and again select the SAN data directory. Okay, there we go. Just click on the transfer button, click yes, and click OK. Okay, so you can now see in the SAN data directory the output from both service processor A and service processor B. So if I select both of those files, and just again using 7-zip, I'm just going to create a zip file that contains our CLARiiON data. What I'll do as well is just rename that to CLARiiON.zip file. If I just sort by type. Okay, so data collection process is now complete for my environment. I've collected from Brocade, I've collected from CLARiiON and Symmetrix as well. So I hope you found that useful today. If you're collecting the configuration data from different devices than the ones that I've used, then perhaps the best place to start is the Quick Start Guide. Then if you need any further information, then review the data collection guide.